karmani limpanti name karma phalespriha itimam yo vijananti karma birna sabhadyate. There's no work that affects me, nor do I aspire for the fruits of action. One who understands this truth about me also does not become entangled in the fruitive reactions of work. Well, this is also explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, 11th chapter, 38th verse, where it says, Etad isanam isasya pakritisto pi tad gunai na yujyate sadatma star yata buddhis tadashraya. This is the divinity of the personality of Godhead. He is not affected by the qualities of material nature, even though he is in contact with them. Similarly, the devotees who have taken shelter of the Lord do not become influenced by the material qualities. Now, what's the difference? In material life, people derive pleasure by drinking, smoking, eating meat, philandering, gambling, whatever, right? But devotees, they derive pleasure by describing the transcendental qualities of the Lord and engaging in the service of the Lord. Now, there's pleasure, but it's not on the same level, and one is liberated state of pleasure, and the other is the conditioned state of pleasure, but it's not pleasure, right? It's nasty, but people think it's pleasure because of their illusion. This is the whole point. They become accustomed to thinking it's pleasure because of their conditioning. But in reality, it's not pleasure. And Prabhupada explains, in the Vedas and Vedic literature, Shruti and Smriti, it is affirmed that in the divinity, there is nothing material. He is transcendental, nirguna only. The supreme cognizant, Hari, or the personality of Godhead, is the supreme transcendental person situated beyond the range of material affection. These statements are also confirmed even by Acharya Sankara. One may argue that his relation with the goddesses of fortune may be transcendental, but what about his relation with the Yadu dynasty, being born in that family, or his killing the non-believers like Jarasandha and other asuras directly in contact with the modes of material nature? This is the question. The answer is that the divinity of the personality of Godhead is never in contact with the qualities of material nature in any circumstances. Actually, he is in contact with such qualities because he is the ultimate source of everything. Yet, he is above the actions of such qualities. He is known, therefore, as Yogeswara, or the master of mystic power, and in other words, the all-powerful. Even his learned devotees are not affected by the influence of the material modes. The great 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan all came from greatly rich and aristocratic families, but when they adopted the life of mendicants of Vrindavana, superficially they appeared to be in wretched condition of life, but factually they were the richest of all in spiritual values. Such Mahabhagavatas or first-grade devotees, although moving amongst men, are not contaminated by honor or insult, hunger or satisfaction, sleep or wakefulness, which are all resultant actions of the three modes of material nature. Similarly, some of them are engaged in worldly dealings, yet are unaffected. Unless these neutralities of life are there, one cannot be considered situated in transcendence. In other words, one has to be aloof from these things to actually begin to taste the pleasure of transcendental life. The divinity and his associates are on the same transcendental plane. In other words, unless we come up to the plane of Brahman, the level of Brahman, naso chiti nakanksati, samaksarvestu buddhesu, friend of all living entities, no more hankering, no more lamenting. We can't understand Krishna. We have to come to his level of Brahman to be able to understand him. We can't stay on the level of sattva, rajas, tamas. We won't be able to really understand him. Sattva will understand maybe a little bit, begin to understand. Rajas and tamas, no possibility at all of understanding. No possibility at all. The divinity and his associates are on the same transcendental plane, and their glories are always sanctified by the action of Yogamaya, or the internal potency of the Lord. They're not acting under the influence of the external potency. They're acting under the influence of the internal potency. And this is also explained in Bhagavad Gita. Mahatmanas tamam partha daivim pakritim asritaha bhajanti ananya manaso yatva bhutadim avyayam. It says that the great devotees always work under my protection. And I'm working under the Daivim Pakritim, my transcendental potency. Okay, where's that verse? One second, I'll find it. So, continuing here, it says that the devotees of the Lord are always transcendental, even if they are sometimes found to have fallen in their behavior. How is that? How can they be transcendental if sometimes they're found to be fallen in their behavior? Because if they bounce back right away and continue devotional service, and their fallen state was due to previous bad habits, some residual conditioning that hasn't been purified yet, but they're willing to take the remedial steps, engage in devotional service under the direction of bona fide devotees, they can be excused. If they do it in a premeditated way and consecutively, then that's not excused. But if it's accidental, it's excused. The Lord emphatically declares in Bhagavad Gita 9:30 that even if an unalloyed devotee is found to be fallen due to previous material contamination, he is nevertheless to be accepted as fully transcendental because of his being engaged cent per cent in the devotional service of the Lord. The Lord protects him always because of his rendering service unto him, and the fallen conditions are to be considered accidental and temporary. They will vanish in no time. So, so 9:13, Mahatmanas tamam partha daivim pakritim asritaha says that those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. So this is a description of the Mahatma. Mahatmanas tamam partha, or Bahunam janmanamante gyanavam prapadyante vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabhaha. After many, many births of endeavoring for spiritual perfection, eventually one arrives at the conclusion, Vasudeva sarvamiti, Krishna, you are everything for me. Samahatma Sudurlabha. Such a great person is very rare. And what happens? Mahatmanas tamam partha daivim pakritim asritaha. They continue their devotional service, but under the protection of the divine energy of the Lord. And they're fully engaged because they know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. So, the first sign of a Mahatma is that he is already situated in the divine nature. He's not under the control of the material nature. And how is that affected? That is explained in the 7th chapter. One who surrenders unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, at once becomes freed from the control of material nature. That is the qualification. The fact that they're surrendered to the Supreme Lord and to their guru and gurus, and never do anything whimsically, always follow the instructions of bona fide spiritual authorities, always check with them. One can become free from the control of material nature as soon as he surrenders his soul to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the preliminary formula. Being marginal potency, as soon as the living entity is freed from the control of material nature, he is put under the guidance of the spiritual nature. The guidance of the spiritual nature is called Daivim Pakriti, divine nature. So when one is promoted in that way, by surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one attains to the stage of a great soul Mahatma. The Mahatma does not divert his attention to anything outside Krishna because he knows perfectly well that Krishna is the original Supreme Person, the cause of all causes. There is no doubt about it. Such a Mahatma, or great soul, develops through association with other Mahatmas, pure devotees. Pure devotees are not even attracted by Krishna's other features, such as the four-armed Mahavishnu. They are simply attracted by the two-armed form of Krishna. They are not attracted to other features of Krishna, nor are they concerned with any form of a demigod or of a human being. They meditate only on Krishna in Krishna consciousness. They are always engaged in the unswerving service of the Lord in Krishna consciousness. So this is very interesting. These are the examples by which we can recognize a genuine devotee. So such Mahabhagavatas, or first-grade devotees, although moving amongst men, are not contaminated by honor or insult, hunger or satisfaction, sleep or wakefulness, which are all resultant actions of the three modes of material nature. Similarly, some of them are engaged in worldly dealings, yet are unaffected. Unless these neutralities of life are there, one cannot be considered situated in transcendence. So everyone's going to be tested to see if they're affected by the modes of material nature and by the complexities that incurred by being in this material world, such as being falsely accused of something, or even falling down. How do they deal with that? Well, if they continue in devotional service, accept any rectification is given, then they can be excused. These are things that happen in the material world, but Mahatmas are people who are not defeated by it. But the materialists are all defeated. Every day they're being defeated by drinking, smoking, and doing all kinds of nonsense. And doing it on a continual basis, day after day. Just like, chain smokers, every day they're smoking. How long can you go on smoking like that? You're killing yourself. Every day they're eating meat. Every day wasting their time. So the Lord emphatically declares in the Bhagavad Gita 9:30, even if an unalloyed devotee is found to be fallen due to a previous material contamination, he's nevertheless to be accepted as fully transcendental because of his being engaged 100% in the devotional service of the Lord. Okay, so we see whatever Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita is being confirmed also in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Yes?
Prabhu says the first-class devotees are not interested in any other incarnation of the Lord.
They don't divert their attention. This is said in the Bhagavad Gita too.
So Shamasundar form and nothing else.
Well, when you say nothing else, they don't deny the existence of other plenary expansions of the Lord, but they give all their attention to the Shamasundar form. Yeah. This is also said in Bhagavad Gita in the 18th chapter. I'll just read that. So in the verse Manmanabhava Madbhakto, 1865, in the purport, the last paragraph says, these words stress that one should concentrate his mind upon Krishna, the very form with two hands carrying a flute, the bluish boy with a beautiful face and peacock feathers in his hair. There are descriptions of Krishna found in the Brahma Samhita and other literatures. One should fix his mind on this original form of Godhead, Krishna. One should not even divert his attention to other forms of the Lord. The Lord has multi-forms as Vishnu, Narayana, Rama, Varaha, etc. But a devotee should concentrate his mind on the form that was present before Arjuna. Concentration of the mind on the form of Krishna constitutes the most confidential part of knowledge, and this is disclosed to Arjuna because Arjuna is the most dear friend of Krishna. Okay, so 1865.
I have a follow-up question. So, now I'm really confused. So we also pray to Nrsimhadev.
Yeah.
We also pray to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We also pray to Lord Rama. We also pray to Balaji. So how to understand?
Well, you can understand that all these forms are contained in the original form of Shamsundar. They're all coming from him. Right? And they're all plenary expansions of the Lord. So once you understand the origin, you're not bewildered by anything else. But the service you're rendering is to this, what you call the original deity. This is the service that you're rendering, right? You don't deny the other expansions of the Lord. And there are special days when we worship the Lord in that special form of Nrsimhadev or Ram or whatever. But our service, our attention, our concentration is rendered to Shamsundar form that was present before Arjuna. Actually, he wasn't actually holding the flute, right? He was there driving the chariot, right? But that's the same Krishna. So, I mean, you might say there's some confusion, right? Why do we have the other deities? Because we honor the Lord in his different expansions also. We don't ignore them. But our service, our attention, our meditation is on Shamsundar. Right? Okay, so now we'll continue. The topmost transcendentalist is not interested in anything material, and his taking interest in the matter of the Lord's activities is definite proof that the Lord is not like one of us in the material world. In the Vedic literatures also, it is confirmed that the Supreme Lord is one, but that he is engaged in his transcendental pastimes in the company of his unalloyed devotees, and that simultaneously is present as the Supersoul and expansion of Baladeva in the heart of all living entities. You see, simultaneously. And this Kshirodaksha Vishnu is actually Balaji. It's an expansion from, direct expansion from Baladev. Baladev is an expansion from Krishna. Therefore, the highest perfection of transcendental realization is to take pleasure in hearing and describing the transcendental qualities of the Lord, and not in merging into his impersonal Brahman existence, for which the impersonal monist aspires. Real transcendental pleasure is realized in the glorification of the transcendental Lord, and not in the feeling of being situated in his impersonal feature. That's why he's explaining the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, because Patanjali is also indicating that in that state of so-called merging, the devotee feels transcendental pleasure. Well, the Mayavadis, they deny that. They say, no. I mean, there's no perception. If you say perception, that means there's an individual. Right? So they try and deny that. But that is the goal. It's to perceive transcendental pleasure. And the highest transcendental pleasure is describing the transcendental activities of the Lord and meditating on them and engaging in them. But there are also others who are not the topmost transcendentalists, but are in a lower status and who do not take pleasure in describing the transcendental activities of the Lord. Rather, they discuss such activities of the Lord formally with the aim of merging into his existence. So, Bhagavad Gita also says, Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rasavarjam rasapyasya param dristva nivartate. Second chapter, 59th verse. The embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, though the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he's fixed in consciousness. That's what Chitti Shakti is. That's what Anandam Buddhivardhanam. That's what Sukham Aidyantikam Yatat. That's what the Yoga Patanjali is talking about. Lord Chaitanya is talking about it. Bhagavatam talks about it. Swarupena Vyavastita. And that's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is talking about, right? Cheto Darpana Marjanam is the clearing stage. Bhava Mahadavagni Nivapanam Sherak Kaira Vichandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadhu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipatam Pranamitasvadanam Sarvatmasnapanam Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. So this Sri Krishna Sankirtanam gives us the taste for which we've always been hankering, the taste of transcendental pleasure in the service of the Lord. That's the param dristva, the higher taste. So unless one is transcendentally situated, it's not possible to cease from sense enjoyment. The process of restriction from sense enjoyment by rules and regulations is something like restricting a diseased person from certain types of eatables. The patient, however, neither likes such restrictions nor loses his taste for eatables. Similarly, sense restriction by some spiritual process like Astanga Yoga, Yama, in the 8 processes of Astanga, Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and then at the end, Samadhi, is recommended for less intelligent persons who have no better knowledge. They don't have knowledge of transcendental pleasure. Right? But one who has tasted the beauty of the Supreme Lord, Krishna, in the course of his advancement in Krishna consciousness, no longer has a taste for dead material things. Therefore, restrictions are there for the less intelligent neophytes in the spiritual advancement of life. But such restrictions are only good until one actually has a taste for Krishna consciousness. When one is actually Krishna conscious, he automatically loses his taste for pale things. If we're talking about taste, this ruchi. Where does ruchi come from? Well, it begins by shraddha, appreciation of what the devotees are doing. They build a nice temple, they're offering nice prasadam, there's beautiful deity, there's regular kirtan, so they appreciate that. They appreciate this. And then they appreciate it so much they want to associate with the devotees. And in the association of devotees, they learn the value of taking initiation from a bona fide spiritual master. And once they take initiation, then they begin the clearing stage. Say, Chaita Darpana Marjanam, getting rid of all the anarthas, bad habits, and false attachments, and false concept of who I am. And then their faith becomes firm, nishta. And when the faith becomes firm, and they hear with firm faith in the Lord, then there's ruchi, taste. The taste comes after the clearing stage of the anarthas, the regular association with devotees, initiation, appreciation, and then strong faith, and hearing with strong faith, not doubting Krishna as God, being absolutely convinced he's the Supreme Personality of God. He's not like ordinary people. He's not subject to the modes of material nature. He controls the modes of material nature, right? Then there's taste. You actually start to feel transcendental pleasure hearing about Krishna, talking about Krishna, engaging in Krishna's service, offering to Krishna, and so forth. So this is the param dristva nivartate. But one who has tasted the beauty of the Supreme Lord Krishna in the course of his advancement in Krishna consciousness no longer has a taste for dead material things. Therefore, restrictions are there for the less intelligent neophytes in the spiritual advancement of life, but such restrictions are only good until one actually has a taste for Krishna consciousness. When one is actually Krishna conscious, he automatically loses his taste for pale things. Now we're beginning to understand Patanjali, Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Chaitanya, Bhagavad Gita, and so forth. So now, we'll continue and then we'll stop in a few minutes. It says, at the end of Dwapara Yuga, I studied this great supplement of Vedic literature named Srimad Bhagavatam, which is equal to all the Vedas from my father, Srila Dwaipayana Vyasa. So this is Sukadeva Goswami explaining his credentials. He learned Bhagavad Gita from his father, Vyasadeva, at the end of the Dwapara Yuga. The statement made by Srila Sukadeva Goswami that the topmost transcendentalist, who is beyond the jurisdiction of regulations and restrictions, mainly takes to the task of hearing about and glorifying the personality of Godhead, and is verified by his personal example. Sukadeva Goswami, being a recognized liberated soul and the topmost transcendentalist, was accepted by all of the topmost sages present in the meeting during the last 7 days of Maharaj Parikshit. He cites from the example of his life that he himself was attracted by the transcendental activities of the Lord, and he studied Srimad Bhagavatam from his great father, Sri Dwaipayana Vyasa Deva. Srimad Bhagavatam, or for that matter, any other scientific literature, cannot be studied at home by one's own intellectual capacity. Medical books of anatomy or physiology are available on the market, but no one can become a qualified medical practitioner simply by reading such books at home. One has to be admitted to the medical college and study the books under the guidance of learned professors. Similarly, the Srimad Bhagavatam, the postgraduate study of the science of Godhead, can only be learned by studying it at the feet of a realized soul like Srila Vyasadeva. Although Sukadeva Goswami was a liberated soul from the very day of his birth, he still had to take lessons of Srimad Bhagavatam from his great father, Vyasadeva, who compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam under the instruction of another great soul, Sri Narada Muni. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed a learned Brahmana to study Srimad Bhagavatam from a personal Bhagavata, or pure devotee. Srimad Bhagavatam is based on the transcendental name, form, attributes, pastimes, entourage, and variegatedness of the Supreme Person, and it is spoken by the incarnation of the Personality of Godhead, Srila Vyasadeva. Pastimes of the Lord are executed in cooperation with his pure devotees, and consequently, historical incidences are mentioned in this great literature because they are related to Krishna. It is called Brahma Samitam, because it is the sound representative of Lord Krishna, like the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is the sound incarnation of the Lord, because it is spoken by the Supreme Lord, and Srimad Bhagavatam is the sound representative of the Lord, because it is spoken by the incarnation of the Lord about activities of the Lord. The incarnation of the Lord is Vyasadeva, right? So it's smriti, it's spoken about the Lord. And Shruti, spoken by the Lord himself, it's the sound incarnation. As stated in the beginning of this book, it is the essence of the Vedic desire tree and the natural commentation on the Brahma Sutras, the topmost philosophical thesis on the subject matter of Brahman. Vyasadeva appeared at the end of Dwapara Yuga as the son of Satyavati, and therefore the word Dwapara Ado, or the beginning of Dwapara Yuga, in this context means just prior to the beginning of the Kali Yuga. Let's see, beginning? It says at the end of Dwapara Yuga. There might be a mistake. Huh? Huh? No, it says the beginning of Dwapara Yuga in this context means just prior to the beginning of Kali Yuga. The logic of this statement, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, is comparable to that of calling the upper portion of the tree the beginning. The root of the tree is the beginning of the tree, but in common knowledge, the upper portion of the tree is first seen. In that way, the end of the tree is accepted as its beginning. Okay, so the end, so it's in the text it says, I see now why he said that. Dwapara Ado. So Ado means literally the beginning of Dwapara Yuga. but it's translated the end of Dwapara Yuga. Huh?
And it is explained as to why.
Yeah, because when you look at a tree, you don't see the root. You see the trunk and the branches. So you could say that's the beginning of the tree. But the beginning means the end, right? Because the root is down. See how subtle? And so if you don't know, somebody doesn't know, right? They would translate, at the beginning of Dwapara Yuga, I studied the great. Well, how could he do it in the beginning? Because he appears at the end, right? But you have to know how to read in context and translate in context of Sanskrit. Only Prabhupada knows that. See? O saintly king, I was certainly situated perfectly in transcendence, yet I was still attracted by the delineation of the pastimes of the Lord, who is described by enlightened verses. So he was in a state of Brahman realization in the womb of his mother, right? But even in that state, the neutral state, he was not concerned with anything material. He became attracted by the pastimes of the Lord. Yes.
So Parikshit Maharaj was 16 years old when he came out of his mother's womb.
Yes. You want to know how tall he was? No, Sukadeva Goswami, not Parikshit.
So he would be pretty tall at that time.
Yeah, that's, I said that you wanted to know how tall he is. Well, no. Because there's something that we don't understand clearly. That is that when on the heavenly planets, in the material world, babies are born after 2 weeks, right? But as soon as they're born, they're fully grown.
Instead of 9 months?
Yeah, they don't 2 weeks, 10 days, 2 weeks. They don't carry the child 9 months. No, they're born and then right away they're fully grown. So you don't have to change diapers or anything. Okay. See, there are many things we don't. Just like Ado, Dwapara, Ado. It sounds like the beginning of Dwapara, but it's actually the end. So a child is in the womb 16 years, you think the mother would be dead because, it grows like... No, he's born a child and right away he grows immediately.
So till then he's so small.
Huh?
So till then while he's in the mother's womb.
Yeah. Okay. But as soon as he's born, he's fully grown. And he left right away. Right away he walked away. As soon as he came out of mother's womb, he just walked away. So there's mysterious things. Why? Everything is mysterious in the material world. How come a bird is flying? How does he fly? It's mysterious how they fly. How come fish always live in the water, never come out of it? It's mysterious. We can't do that. You can't live underwater and breathe underwater. You'll die. You can't fly through the air. You would fall down. But the bird can do it, and the fish can do it. So there's a lot of mystery in the material world. So the absolute truth is realized as impersonal Brahman at first instance by philosophical speculation, and later as the supersoul by further progress of transcendental knowledge. But if, by the grace of the Lord, an impersonalist is enlightened by the superior statements of Srimad Bhagavatam, he is also converted into a transcendental devotee of the personality of Godhead. With a poor fund of knowledge, we cannot adjust to the idea of the personality of the Absolute Truth. And the personal activities of the Lord are deplored by less intelligent impersonalists. They think it's all fairy tales. Mythology. Krishna lifted up Govardhan Hill. Krishna killed Putana when he was only a baby. Putana was, 12 miles long, demon. 12 miles long, that's how big she was, right? How can a little baby kill him, But if by the grace of the Lord, the impersonalist is enlightened by the superior statements of Srimad Bhagavatam, he is also converted into a transcendental devotee of the personality of Godhead. With a poor fund of knowledge, we cannot adjust to the idea of the personality of absolute truth, and the personal activities of the Lord are deplored by less intelligent impersonalists. But reasons and arguments together with the transcendental process of approaching the absolute truth help even the staunch impersonalists to become attracted by the personal activities of the Lord. It says, by reasons and arguments. That means devotees should be able to present in a very scientific and authoritative way this subject of Krishna. And even an impersonalist who denies the personality of Godhead can accept Krishna together with the transcendental process of approaching the absolute truth. What's the transcendental process? Engaging the senses in Krishna's service under the instruction of bona fide devotees. And becoming initiated by a bona fide guru. So Mayavadi gurus are not bona fide. Not one of them is bona fide. Because they're teaching something that's completely false.
Supposed to pay respects when we see them.
Yeah, you pay respects. Pay respects. But you don't have to listen to what they say. A person like Sukadeva Goswami cannot be attracted, and Mayavadi, a person who takes initiation from a Mayavadi devotee, guru, should be reinitiated by a Vaishnava. Normally you don't reinitiate people who are initiated, but if their guru is a Mayavadi, he should be reinitiated. Or he's not even considered initiated. It should be initiated properly. A person like Sukadeva Goswami cannot be attracted by any mundane activity. But when such a devotee is convinced by a superior method, he is certainly attracted by the transcendental activities of the Lord. The Lord is transcendental, as are his activities. He is neither inactive nor impersonal. That very Srimad Bhagavatam I recite before you, now Sukadeva Goswami is speaking to Maharaj Pariksit, because you are the most sincere devotee of Lord Krishna. One who gives full attention and respect to hearing Srimad Bhagavatam achieves unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord, the giver of salvation. Srimad Bhagavatam is recognized Vedic wisdom, and the system of receiving Vedic knowledge is called Avaroha Panta, or the process of receiving transcendental knowledge through bona fide disciplic succession. So there's Aurora, Panta, and Avaroha. So, yeah, Aurora is ascending process. Avaroha is a descending process, coming through from Krishna through disciplic succession to us. So that is the Vedic way of learning, not the ascending process like the scientists experimenting, drawing conclusions, and so forth. For advancement of material knowledge, there's a need for personal ability and research aptitude. But in the case of spiritual knowledge, all progress depends more or less on the mercy of the spiritual master. The spiritual master must be satisfied with the disciple. Only then is knowledge automatically manifest before the student of spiritual science. The process should not, however, be misunderstood to be something like magical feats, whereby the spiritual master acts like a magician and injects spiritual knowledge into his disciple as if surcharging him with an electric current. So this is what happened. Ramakrishna supposedly did this to Vivekananda. He touched him, and there was a transference of his knowledge to Vivekananda, and Vivekananda fainted, right? And then when he woke up, he was full of knowledge from the Guru. That's not the process, not the bona fide Vedic process. Huh?
The Shaktipat Yoga?
Yes, Shaktipat Yoga, yeah. You get touched and something happens to you. Yeah. The bona fide spiritual master reasonably explains everything to the disciple on the authorities of Vedic wisdom. The disciple can receive such teachings not exactly intellectually, but by submissive inquiries and a service attitude. The idea is that both the spiritual master and the disciple must be bona fide. In this case, the spiritual master, Sukadeva Goswami, is ready to recite exactly what he has learned from his great father, Srila Vyasadeva. And the disciple, Maharaj Parikshit, is a great devotee of Lord Krishna. A devotee of Lord Krishna is he who believes sincerely that by becoming a devotee of the Lord, one becomes fully equipped with everything spiritual. This teaching is imparted by the Lord himself in the pages of Bhagavad Gita, in which it is clearly described that the Lord, Sri Krishna, is everything, and that to surrender unto him solely and wholly makes one the most perfectly pious man. This unflinching faith in Lord Krishna prepares one to become a student of Srimad Bhagavatam, and one who hears Srimad Bhagavatam from a devotee, like Sukadeva Goswami, is sure to attain salvation at the end, as Maharaj Parikshit did. The professional reciter of Srimad Bhagavatam and the pseudo-devotees whose faith is based on 1 week's hearing are different from Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit. In other words, Prabhupada did not really like this Bhagavat Saptah, where you race through the Bhagavatam, because it should be Nityam Bhagavata. It should be every day, throughout the day, right?
The professionals rushing to the 10th canto and to the Raslila and only students.
Yeah, whatever, they're making, it's just basically for entertainment. People don't really make tangible spiritual advancement by assisting in Bhagavat Saptah, given by professional reciters. It's an entertainment, it's nice, it's entertaining, there's, nice stories and jokes and things like that. In the end, they just go back to what they were doing before. You see that all the time. You see people come here, there's some kind of program like that, you never see them again. Whereas devotees, they keep coming back, they keep wanting to learn more. The others, it was an entertainment for them, some official function. A devotee of Lord Krishna is he who believes sincerely that by becoming a devotee of the Lord, one becomes fully equipped with everything spiritual. Now, this is the definition of faith. This is explained also in Bhagavad Gita. Shradava labhate jnanam. Find that. Fourth chapter, 39th verse. Shadaval labhate jnanam tatpara samyatendriyat jnanam ladva param santim achiren adigachati. A faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge. And having achieved it, he quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Such knowledge and Krishna consciousness can be achieved by a faithful person who believes firmly in Krishna. One is called faithful man who thinks that simply by acting in Krishna consciousness he can attain the highest perfection. That's called faith. Simply by acting in Krishna consciousness he can attain the highest perfection. This faith is attained by the discharge of devotional service and by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, which cleanses the heart of all material dirt. Over and above this, one should control the senses. A person who is faithful to Krishna and who controls the senses can easily attain perfection in the knowledge of Krishna consciousness without delay. Very important statement of faith. Shadaval labhate jnanam. Also it says, Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asita matpara. Yes, vasihi yasyanendriyani Tasya pragya pratisthita. Second chapter, 61st verse, Bhagavad Gita says, one who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me, is known as a man of steady intelligence. So this is called the highest perfection, or highest conception of yoga, perfection. The highest conception of yoga perfection is Krishna consciousness. And it's clearly explained in this verse. Tani sarvani samyamya. Samyamya means keeping under control. And yukta means engaging the senses in Krishna's service. And matpara means in relationship to Krishna. Yukta asita matpara. Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asita matpara. It's a very beautiful verse, beautiful Sanskrit. So one who restrains his senses and keeping them under full control and fixes his consciousness, vasehi yasyanindriyani, tasya pragya pratisthita, this pragya, is fixing consciousness upon me, is known as a man of steady intelligence. So the highest conception of yoga perfection is Krishna consciousness. And unless one is Krishna conscious, it's not at all possible to control the senses. Now, who's the example of controlling the senses? Well, Durvasa Muni is one who is not. Although he was a perfect yogi, he was not able to control his senses. And then he tried to kill Maharaj Ambarish. On the other hand, Maharaj Ambarish was the example of perfect yogi because he was a pure devotee of the Lord and he controlled his senses. How? He fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, engaged his words in describing the abode of the Lord, his hands in cleansing the temple of the Lord, his ears in hearing the pastimes of the Lord, his eyes in seeing the form of the Lord, his body in touching the body of the devotee, his nostrils in smelling the flavor of the flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, his tongue in tasting the tulsi leaves offered to the Lord, his legs in traveling to the holy places where the Lord's temple is situated, his head in offering obeisances unto the Lord, and his desires in fulfilling the desires of the Lord. And all these qualifications made him what's called matpara, devotee. What does that mean? It means that he's fully connected to the Lord, always engaged by complete service. His senses are controlled by the strength of devotional service to Krishna. So this matpara is described by the life of Ambarish Maharaj. Right? Okay, so this unflinching faith in Lord Krishna prepares one to become a student of Srimad Bhagavatam. And one who hears Srimad Bhagavatam from a devotee like Sukadeva Goswami is sure to attain salvation at the end of life, as Maharaj Parikshit did. So Lord Krishna, Srila Vyasadeva explained Srimad Bhagavatam to Sukadeva Goswami from the very beginning of the Janmad Asayata. And so Sukadeva Goswami also explained it to the king, Parikshit. Lord Krishna is described as the Mahapurusha in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, in his devotional feature as Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Lord Krishna himself in his devotional attitude, descended on earth to bestow special favors upon the fallen souls of this age of Kali. There are two verses particularly suitable to offer as prayers to this Mahapurusha feature of Lord Krishna. So Purusha means the enjoyer, Mahapurusha means the supreme enjoyer, or the supreme personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. One who deserves to approach Supreme Lord Sri Krishna is called the Mahapurushika. Anyone who hears Srimad Bhagavatam attentively from its bona fide reciter is sure to become a sincere devotee of the Lord who is able to award liberation. There was none so attentive as Maharaj Parikshit in the matter of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, and there was none so qualified as Sukadeva Goswami to recite the text of Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, anyone who follows in the footsteps of either the ideal reciter or the ideal hearer, Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit, respectively, will undoubtedly attain salvation like them. Maharaj Parikshit attained salvation by hearing only, and Sukadeva Goswami attained salvation only by reciting. Recitation and hearing are two processes out of 9 devotional activities, and by strenuously following the principles, either in all or in parts, one can attain the absolute plane. So the complete text of Srimad Bhagavatam, beginning with Janmadasya verse up to the last one in the 12th canto, was spoken by Sukadeva Goswami for the attainment of salvation by Maharaj Parikshit. In the Padma Purana, it is mentioned that Gautama Muni advised Maharaj Ambarisha to hear regularly Srimad Bhagavatam as it was recited by Sukadeva Goswami. And herein it is confirmed that Maharaj Ambarisha heard Srimad Bhagavatam from the very beginning to the end as it was spoken by Sukadeva Goswami. One who is actually interested in the Bhagavatam, therefore, must not play with it by reading or hearing a portion from here and a portion from there. One must follow in the footsteps of great kings like Maharaj Ambarisha or Maharaj Parikshit and hear it from a bona fide representative of Sukadeva Goswami. Itan nividyamananam ichitam akutobayam. Harir yoginam nripanirnitam harir namagam kirtanam. This is a very famous verse, Canto 2, Chapter 1, text number 11. O King, constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord after the ways of the great authorities is the doubtless and fearless way of success for all, including those who are free from material desires, those who are desirous of all material enjoyment, and also those who are self-satisfied by dint of transcendental knowledge. In other words, the impersonalist, the Vishayi or sense gratifier, and the devotee. This constant chanting of Krishna's holy name is good for everyone. Okay, so now we'll probably stop right here. Continue later on today, right? Tonight. Yeah. Are there any questions anyone wants to ask? You see, we're going a little slow now because this part of the second chapter is very, very important. Really explains what Krishna consciousness is.
Are we going to continue the same sequence through the Sunday classes in the year coming?
Yeah, it'll probably take a whole year to get through the whole.
Yeah, but at least then.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Now we'll continue on a daily basis, while I'm here, and when I come back, we should go through the whole Bhagavatam. Yeah. But now it's being televised. So. I saw some man yesterday